dt. As a scenario, we have used Paddy prediction. So as a supervised learning algorithm, I'm using linear regression to do the prediction to train my dataset. Yeah, so as a data source, we found a data set from the USOI machine learning repository regarding the Paddy yield. So our object is to predict the Paddy yield in kilograms. So many features, many things effect on that. So inputting those things, we are going to predict the Paddy yield. Okay, so to evaluate these algorithm, I'm using the matrix, the MAE, RMSE, and R2. Yeah. So first of all, I have installed the relevant libraries which I need to proceed further. That is the NumPy, Pandas, Seaborn, and the Metabole library for PyPlot, and a few more other libraries also. Yeah. Next, this is a small uh, helper section to find out the SK because there are different SKLearn versions. To figure it out, we have used, I made the RMSE calculation robust, so code works in different environments also. And next here, I'm loading the data set as you can see, and then the shape of the dataset is here, the number of rows and the columns. So the columns are with the target column also. Altogether there are 45 columns. So I've got a small preview of first 5 rows of our dataset. Yeah, and then here the basic data checking is happening. That is uh, we check with the missing data values, the duplications, and those things. So with that, we have come up with a diagram about how the target value has been distributed. So it can be said that it is a balanced data set to this diagram. As you can see, there are not really high values also in the target data set. So all are like somewhat some sort of a balanced data set. So that's the idea we could get. And then for the numeric features, I have done a small correlation analysis, and with that, the heat map is generated. So with the heat map, we can get the idea about what are the top targeted related numeric features that effect on the output. Yeah. Then we have split the features as the categorical and numerical features and split the data set as well. So in the pre-processing pipeline, what I've done is there are null values as well. So in that cases for numerical features, we have got the median value for those things. And for the categorical, we have taken the most frequent category to those null categories data rows. Yeah. So at this part, the linear regression is happening. And finally, I've got the MAE and the RMSE and the R2 score. You can see the R2 score is 0.9, somewhat near to 1. So it can be said that it's a good model. And then this is the feature effect directions and the magnitude in the linear regression coefficients. So you can see there are a few minus coefficients and also plus values as well. And this is the cross validation part of it. So with the cross validation also we can find out everything perfectly. We can make sure that all the data, the model is trained very well with all the whatever we split the data set into different parts, and whatever the section we give gives the correct output, so we can get that guessing through this. And this is finally the predicted and the actual plot. We can see it's always aligned with this with 0. So I think it's it gives a good output. And this is the residual analysis. This is the residual and the predicted answers. We can see everything falls around 0, which is a good point. Yeah. So with that being said, I'll finish off my explanation about linear regression. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shavin Vijay Singh, and my part focuses on gradient boosting regression, which is a model that improves prediction step by learning from previous errors. So, first, what I did was importing the required libraries to train this model, and also I imported the required machine learning tools like this. And then I loaded the dataset using pandas and checked the basic details like columns and missing values and data types. This helps to understand the structure of this dataset before building the model. And then what I did is I separated the data into X and Y. So in X is the input features, and also Y is the target variable, which is paddy yield in kilogram. So other than paddy yield column, the all of the other columns are input features in this model. Next, and then I split the dataset into training and testing sets. So 80% of this dataset is used to train the model, and 20% of this is used to test it. After that, uh, I prepared the dataset using uh, data using preprocessing pipeline. So here what we did was missing values were handled and categorical data was converted into one hot encoding. And also numerical data was scaled and low variance features were removed. So this ensures the data is ready for the model. So the next part is training the model. Then I created the pipeline combining preprocessing and the gradient boosting model and trained it. So this model works by building multiple models step by step, correcting error each time, which helps improve accuracy. So after training, I tested the model and got the results of uh, MAE and RMSE and also R square. So we are more focusing on the R square, which is from that the model explain of about 99% of the variation, which is very high. So, so then I also used graphs like actual versus predicted and also residual plots. This helps to visually check how well the model is performing. Then I checked feature importance to see which factors affect yield the most. Also, and after that, I used grid search to find better parameters, but the model already performed very well. So finally, I tested the model with sample inputs and it successfully predicted the paddy yield. To combine all the gradient boosting model performed very well. Uh,
Paddy yield prediction. Our problem is a supervised machine learning regression problem. The goal is to predict paddy yield in kilogram using agricultural, soil, fertilizer, weather, and environmental features from the dataset. From this part, I use the random forest regressor. I selected this algorithm because random forest is well suited for regression tasks with many input variables and complex nonlinear relationships. It is also effective when the dataset contains different types of features that may interact with each other. First, I loaded the dataset and performed data exploration. I checked the shape of the dataset, data types, summary, and missing values. The dataset contained 2,789 rows and 45 columns, and there were no missing values. Then I carry out preprocessing. I clean the column names, separated in input features and target variable, and identify categorical and numerical columns. Since the dataset had categorical variables such as agriblock, variety, soil type, nursery type, and wind direction, I applied one-hot encoding to convert them into numerical format. I also used an imputation pipeline for robustness, even though the dataset had no missing values. After pre-processing, I split the data into training and testing sets using an 80-20 ratio. Then I trained the baseline random forest model on training data and evaluate it on the test data. For evaluation, I use regression metrics, mean absolute error, root mean squared error, and R squared score. The baseline random forest model achieved an MAE of about 632.61, RMSE of about 887.05, and R squared score about 0.9903. These values indicate that the model performed very well and explain about 99% of the variation in paddy yield. Next, I performed hyperparameter tuning using randomized search CV to improve the model. The best parameter include 200 trees, a maximum depth of 10, minimum sample split of 10, minimum sample leaf of 1, and maximum features set to square root. The tune model shows slightly better RMSE and R squared value, but MAE become worse. So the tuning gave mixed results. This means the baseline model was already strong, and tuning improved some metrics but not all. I also analyzed feature importance to understand which variable had greatest influence on the prediction. Some of the most important features were LP many field in tons, pest 60 days in milliliter, and seed rate in kilogram, hectares, and DAP 20 days. This suggests that field production factors, pest treatment, seed rate, land area, and fertilizer use play a major role in predicting paddy yield. In conclusion, random forest performed extremely well for this dataset and proved to be a strong model for paddy yield prediction.
Hello everyone, I am Pereira LKST. In this project, my contribution was implementing the k-nearest neighbor or KNN model to predict paddy yield using the given dataset. First, I loaded the dataset and exploit using function like shape, head, and info. The dataset contained 2,789 rows and 45 columns with both numerical and categorical features. The target variable in this dataset is paddy yield in kilograms. Next, I separated the dataset into input features and target variable. I assigned the paddy yield column to Y and the remaining columns to X. This separation is important because the model uses input features to predict the target value. After that, I performed a train test split where 80% of the data is used for training and 20% of data is used for testing. This allows us to evaluate the model using unseen data. Then I apply data preprocessing. Since the data set contains both numerical and categorical features, preprocessing was necessary. For numerical data, I handled missing value use mean imputation. Then I applied standard scaler for feature scaling. For categorical data, I handled missing value using the most frequent value. Also, I remove low important features in this data set. Model training. Next, I create the model using k-neighbors regressor and combine it with pre-processing pipeline. Then I train the model using the training dataset. KNN works by finding the nearest neighbors and using their values to make predictions. After training, I evaluate the model using three metrics: mean absolute error, root mean squared error, and R-square score. The model achieved high R-square score, indicating the predictive performance. To improve performance, I tested different values of K such as 3, 5, 7, 9 and 11. Then I used to grid search CV to automatically find the best parameter. This helped improve accuracy and optimize the model. I used two visualization. Actual was predicted graph to compare predictions with real values. Then I used K value was R square graph to find the best K value. These graphs help evaluate the model performance visually. In conclusion, the KNN model performs very well and provides accurate predictions. This is my part, and thank you so much.